Saturday was a great night for Joanna Jedrzejczyk. She got back in the win column. She had a win previously against Tisha Torres, but of course, her last fight against flyweight did not go so great against Valentina Shevchenko. Well, here she was, absolutely dominating Michelle Waterson, who, to her credit, fought about, I think, as valiantly as she could have. She tried even to the last minute to put something together, but she was totally outgunned. The narrative, Brian, after this fight is the Boogie Woman back? You know, she finally is in her, I won't say her natural weight class, because if you ask me, she's actually more of a tweener. We don't have a 121 weight class, but if we did, that's actually the best spot.
She certainly doesn't have the pop for 25. Let's not try to forget that.
Not the pop for 25, and then at 115, she really is killing herself to get down there. And dissected this week when you get a chance to watch it, because I know you're
Professor Salt and Pepper's back. Yeah.
Well, here's the one thing. I went back and looked at her Juliana Lima fight. She just you can't imagine how much physically smaller she looks. Like at American Top Team under the work of Phil DeRue, she's really put on a ton of muscle mass. Okay, but the point being is the Boogie Woman back? And I'm going to say no, but hold on. I'm not going to say no, like it's never going to happen. It's not true. Here's what I want people to just to understand. One, her weight class issues are not going to go away, right? Which isn't to say she can't make it. She made 115.5 this past time. But I want to point out, every time she has to cut weight, it is going to be a struggle for her. And some of those weight cuts are going to be easier than others. If she has to travel to certain places, now maybe not Poland, but if she has to go to some other place, God only knows. Because many fighters, they go to Brazil, they have to figure out how they're going to eat food, where they're going to cut weight, where they're going to get their water from. And it obviously is bottled water, but the point being
what they're going to do now when there's no drug testing, right? 2013 Belfort?
All kinds of stuff. It's really different down there. So, to me, that could anything that doesn't go right for her could really jeopardize it. That's not a small consideration. Now, did she look awesome? Was she utterly dominant? Yes. Is that a championship caliber fighter? Absolutely. I guess my only point is, Zhang Weili is an incredibly tough customer, and if you look at the way Jedrzejczyk fights now, as opposed to how she fought earlier in her UFC tenure, she's a round winner. The math justifies this. Her average fight time is 19 minutes long. Her average fight time is a 4-round fight. She's actually a better fighter now, and she's harder to beat, but she's not so much of a finisher in the way that she used to be, which I think is utterly fair.
She really was never a finisher outside of that ass kicking she put on, what, Penne?
Penne, and of course Esparza as well. But the point being is this. I think that the jury is out. So I'm not saying no, like affirmatively no. I'm saying let's see some more evidence. If she beats Zhang Weili, that would be incredible. How many UFC champions outside of heavyweight, where you had the Coutures and the Silvias and everyone rotating, have ever done that, where they lost the belt and came back and got it? It's like GSP, Matt Hughes. Not many other fighters have done that before. So that's what I'm looking to see. For me, jury's still out. What about you?
She's back, and like this show, like me in this chair, I'm back, baby. She's back with a bang. Now, some of y'all might get with this, and some of y'all won't. But listen, you know the next line. My point on this is, you remember when Buffer's announcing her name, okay? There used to be a swagger with the Boogie Woman that defined her. That swagger was gone for a couple fights, all right? It wasn't just the fact that she lost her title. And say what you will, every fighter's got excuses. Maybe she's never going to beat Rose Namajunas. Maybe that's the wrong striking style against her, and she's probably never going to beat her career rival Shevchenko, and certainly not at 125.
Right.
But the swagger was gone. You remember her creating sort of fake argument situations like Rousey did ahead of the home fight just to try to get herself fired up because she couldn't get in Rose's head.
Or the props at the weigh-ins.
That swagger that she used to have was back. When Joe Martinez. When Joe Martinez, the fantastic Joe Martinez, was announcing her name, I don't know if you looked closely. Some of these moments don't mean anything to people, but it does for me. She had a face on her.
She did.
The Boogie Woman was back. She was basically like, fucking fighting, it's all the same. Like, it was there. And I know maybe that doesn't mean anything to you, but when I saw that, I said to myself, I think it's going to be an ass-kicking. It's a matchup against Waterson, who is tough as nails, but it's a matchup that young Jedrzejczyk should win with her striking ability, her accuracy, and her length. But it was the swagger and that toughness that seemed to be back. And I think when you start really looking into her personal life and reading closely the interviews, and she gave a real detailed one with Mark Raimondi, your former colleague now at ESPN, where she really opened up about that stretch of losing the title and the fights that followed, about the people in her camp and her personal life that she welcomed in that were only negative to her in the long run. And again, look, it's an excuse. All fighters have excuses. But I think in this case, when you look at that, you look at the awful weight cut she had ahead of that first Rose Namajunas fight, it seemed that her head got big. She became a champion. She was becoming somewhat of a crossover star, certainly in Europe. And she wasn't necessarily doing the same things and preparing the same way. She seems back. She seems better for have gone through what she went through. And by that performance, I thought it was perfect prime Boogie Woman, young Jedrzejczyk, overcoming the broken right foot, just being a high volume, high energy, 5-round banger in there. It was fun to see. And really, you look at the future now. 115 is a division that always delivers. I love it. The fights are great. The personalities are great. They're almost in line, if you're UFC, to create potentially your sexiest matchup possible. What's that? And this is no disrespect to Zhang Weili, who may end up being the star of this division in the long run. We're going to find out.
That.
But if Joanna comes back and can win back that title, and she's certainly the biggest star in the division, and then you get Rose back up out of the bullpen, and you do a trilogy fight. Normally, you don't do a third fight when one person wins the first two, and specifically so dominantly as that first fight. But to have Joanna potentially come back as the champion, I'm just saying there's big business ahead, and she seems mentally to be wired in a way that tells me, Luke, that she's gone through the fire. She went through some stuff. But what's crazy, and here's maybe you're going to say this, is if she didn't make weight this week, that's over. If she lost this fight, that would be over. She would become a celebrity name who is aging, but she for whatever reason, she bit down. She made that 115 or the 116, got us there. She's right back in line where she needs to be.
This fight, to me, was a real indication of how the UFC felt about her, which was they were a little uncertain, too. Think about the other venues that she had fought in. She fought in on the Ronda Rousey card. She did fight on an Ultimate Fighter card, but that's because she was the coach on the Ultimate Fighter. They've put her on big platforms, the Conor McGregor card as well. They've really given her a push. This time they put her on ESPN+, not because they didn't believe in her. For crying out loud, they put her in the main event, maybe a number one contenders bout. But I think they wanted to see, is she back? Is this somebody who has a little bit of swag left? And you're right, I did see the swag when she showed her teeth and it said Polska on the mouthpiece. I remember.
And she gave a couple of executioner looks. It was just sort of like.
Trust me, I was with you. I was like, okay, dude, please don't misunderstand me. She looked awesome. I devoted my whole dissected to her this week. I haven't done that for a female fighter in a long time. And you're missing something else, too, about this whole thing.
Yeah, bring it.
If she lost her title, if she spends time away, goes to another weight class, loses, comes back, and then recaptures a title, she'd be the first woman in the UFC to ever do that, which to me is historic in its own right, quite literally. But more importantly, remember, we're talking about the strawweight division, the division that moves the fastest. Now, Tatiana Suarez is on the injured reserve, but she eventually, we think, is going to come back. If Joanna Jedrzejczyk can recapture the title, that would be huge. And then you start beating some of these other contenders, which I maintain is a new way she's fighting. Not like brand new, but that sort of evolved to this particular stage. That's huge. All I'm saying is, also, she was widely expected to beat Michelle Waterson. Now, she made weight, and she did it, and that was awesome. And she did it with swag. That's the difference. The only thing I'm pointing out is I just don't want everyone to be like, all right, she's going to be champion again. Dude, she's in a very, very tough division. She has a lot of women.
Takedown defense was on point, though, Luke. You got to give her that.
Dude, what was not on point? She outstruck her in every dimension. The takedown defense was on point. Even when Waterson managed to find her back, she found a way to wiggle out of it. Dude, she looked great. She looked great under any circumstance. But like this recoronation, it hasn't happened in the women's divisions ever where you lose a title and recapture it. John Jones did it, Randy Couture did it, GSP did it, Matt Hughes did it. Listen to those names. Are we going to put her up there? We might. I just want to see the evidence first.
Now, she fought head-to-head even, if you will, in the Rose rematch, in which she sort of put some of the...
Heading into the fifth, I had it 2-2.
Great fight, by the way. If you don't realize what a classic fight that was, they don't talk about it enough with everything that happened to Conor and Khabib that weekend. But how do you think she would potentially match up with Zhang Weili if she got the next call?
It's super interesting because people don't realize this. Many fighters coming out of China are not very complete. They have a couple of things they do really well, and they got so many just utter gaps. Dude, she doesn't. She fought in Kunlun Fighting Championship and a bunch of other shows. Whoever did her matchmaking and whoever did her grooming to bring her to this stage, she's bad at nothing. The key is, Joanna Jedrzejczyk, I think, is quicker, has a longer reach, is taller. Weili Zhang, or Zhang Weili, is only 1 inch taller than Michelle Waterson. Remember the height differential in the clinch? I think that's going to play a big role. At the same time, you know who's also a good clinch fighter? Zhang Weili. So to me, it's like, this is why everyone's like, oh, she's back. I'm like, she might be. But she has a tall order in front of her. I would be very, very cautious.
You mentioned Tatiana Suarez. That's a tall order.
And
as
another
well.
one right after that. So we'll have to see. Now,
what a damn good division. Really, outside of lightweight, this is the best division in the sport.
All right, let me ask you about this one. Chrome Gracie, that striking style. First of all, he says he won. I was like, what? But okay, he thinks he won. He
won. He won. If there was a BMF title on the line, he won that in this.
Yeah,
fight.
he was. His resiliency under those body attacks was remarkable. Okay, that striking style. His striking style, to me, Brian Campbell, it's like self-refuting. It's like, I'm committed to these principles of martial arts, and I'm also going to compete and win with them. They show you why you can't. Okay, how much of a liability is this going forward?
This fight is so interesting because I could come at you with a completely damning take against Chrome Gracie. You know, you blew it. You fought a stupid style. You barely went for takedowns. You barely put your bread and butter on the table and went after it. And then I can also make some hipster argument of why this will help him in the long run. But first and foremost, good Lord, he fought like a Diaz brother. I mean, this would have been the equivalent of him getting stopped by TSA and they find a joint. They'd be like, oh, I guess you're hanging out with Nick and Nate again. I mean, it was basically a mirror image. I don't know if this was the initiation to their camp where like you got to go off into a big fight and just fight a wrong style and be a badass. But the thing is, he did that. He walked down Cub Swanson for 3 rounds. He didn't land the bigger punches, but he showed you that he has major league striking. And that was a big question coming in.
What does that mean, major league striking?
Maybe not elite power, okay? He certainly got the backbone and the balls, and he showed me at least that he's got really good technique. He knows how to put punches together, and he goes after it. I'm not saying that.
Now, when you watched this, had you had an edible beforehand?
I had not had one beforehand. So let me put it to you like this. I see your reaction is sort of looking at me like I'm crazy.
Because that was the last thing I would say.
Coming in, we looked at him as potentially a one-dimensional fighter, right? A name, one of these Marco Madsen guys. Can they evolve? Can they become a thing? He basically picked up his biggest weakness in this fight, went out there and did it for the entire 3 minutes. Wasn't on the level of his opponent, yet did not take a step backward and was just like, I'm going to live and die by this sword. I don't know if he's trying to prove it to himself. I don't know if he's trying to prove it to his haters. But I came out of that fight going, hipster take or not, he's going to be better for this performance in the long run because I think he dove headfirst into the deep end of the pool, into a skill set that he's not strongest in or stronger in that matchup. He did pretty damn good, Luke.
Right. So
he did pretty damn good in that category.
I would say,
wasn't smart in the long run, but this showed me he has a closer opportunity to be a more well-rounded fighter than I would have thought.
So I don't think so. At the age he is, given, it's not that he doesn't have tremendous athletic ability. Like if you ever watched Crone, here's a recommendation for you, for everyone watching. Go Google, I think it was when the ADCC was in China, find Crone Gracie's match with Gary Tonin, find Crone Gracie's match with JT Torres. We're talking 2 of the all-time best. He won them both, by the way. And he won them with old-fashioned jiu-jitsu. Not super berimbolo, inverted this and the other. He actually beat JT Torres. He had full guard on him. He had an overhook on one side and just whipped into an armbar and got him. JT Torres is a multiple-time medalist out of Atos. Beat him that way. He has employed that reality, which he is so good at, into martial arts generally, and he got torn to pieces for it as a result. Now, you're pointing out he showed resiliency, and he showed, I would say by the 3rd round from the clinch in shorter range, he put some combinations together. I will give him credit there. But these Gracies have these delusional ideas about like what the value of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is in terms of martial arts generally. And when you employ that at scale, it blows up in your face every time. This is well established now. My thought is, if he wants to learn from the Diaz brothers, who can actually box really well, yeah, he can go really far. If he keeps to what got him here at this point, he's going to be.
So you weren't impressed by his stand-up. And again, I'm putting out there, it's a bad idea. We saw the result.
I was impressed by his stand-up. I was impressed by his resiliency. And his jiu-jitsu is god tier. I mean, it's unbelievably good. But was I impressed by it? No, I was not. Dude, consider the difference at 145, another jiu-jitsu guy, Ryan Hall. He has different entries, and folks want to get away. And then on the feet, he outstrikes them. Doesn't take hardly any damage. It's the opposite approach, and I feel it's better for longevity, and I think it's better for upside, too. That, to me, is the better approach. That, to me, is the guy at 145 who's a jiu-jitsu specialist.
Well, here's what I think
who you should be celebrating.
He's a free spirit. I was going to use the term free spirit. You use the term delusional, talking about the overarching thing of the Gracies that say our jiu-jitsu is better than anything. We're going to live and die by it.
Yeah.
I almost felt like he completely flipped the script, did a ballsy move, and said, you know what? Cub Swanson, a veteran, older, but he's still tough. The guy can strike. I'm going to go into that cage. I'm going to beat him at what he does best. I'm going to do it with swagger. I'm going to do it with balls. No matter what happens to me, I'm going to keep coming forward and keep walking him down, and I'm going to prove to everybody that I can strike. And you know what? He lost. But I think he did pretty damn good in trying to prove that point. Is it a valid point to prove? No. Was it smart? No. But it seems he's got that free spirit side of him if you see his reactions on social media after this fight, not just complaining about the decision, but just sort of, being like, you're not me, you don't understand. I think that's what he was trying to do. And I think that's in the long run going to prove something to himself that when he puts that package together, Luke, and he leans on that striking more to set up the submission game like you're talking about.
But this is the point. Is he? Is he going to do that?
Well, the jury's out until we see it.
Everyone's talking like this evolution is inevitable. Is he committed to striking and learning how to strike? Even Cub Swanson said afterwards at his post-fight scrum, he's got to humble himself and learn MMA. Right? If he's going to keep doing exactly what he's doing, you kind of already know what his ceiling is. But what I'm saying is, do what the Diaz brothers did. Really work on your hands, and then I think his ceiling is extraordinary because his chin is good, His body resiliency to body attack is unbelievable.
Yeah, can we pause and just put that out there?
That to me was the most impressive.
That was absolutely ridiculous. His ability to no-sell body shots like that. And these weren't taps. These were Cub Swanson digging in, biting down, and going for it to the liver. And it was like nothing happened.
That to me was amazing. And then again, people are frightened of his jiu-jitsu, as well they should be. That is so good, no one will ever catch up with that, including the great Ryan Hall, who's very, very good, obviously. So to me, it's like, I'm not asking for much. Tighten up that other stuff, and the world is your oyster.
He's definitely an artist,
But if it's just going
though,
to
dude.
be Gracie Jiu-Jitsu with that horse stomp as an entry, dude, you're not going to beat good fighters that way.
He may never end up becoming well-rounded. It may be his own fault, but he's a free spirit. I feel like fight to fight, he's just going to do what he wants in there. It's certainly going to be fun to watch. It's probably not the smartest for his long-term win-loss column and evolution, but I don't know. I still came away from there seeing a lot that I think can be applied positively to the future.
I hope you're right, because if he can evolve, hey, all bets are off.
And no, it looked like he had the edible before the fight. Not me, just so you know.
If what he showed us is what it's going to be, you've already seen the limits of it. Now, one more thing, James Vick. I talked to him yesterday. 4 losses in a row, 3 by first round stoppage, brutal ones on top of that. He even said going into this fight, like, if I lose one more time, I'm going to get my walking papers. I didn't ask him about it. I got the health update. His teeth are fine. His jaw is fine. CT scan came back negative, but he thinks he tore his knee. He's going to get an MRI. Where does he go from here?
He's going to have to go where he should have went after that 3rd straight knockout loss, which is to take time off and really, A, decide if you still want to be doing this on this level, and B, he's got fundamental flaws, and we've talked about it on the show after his last knockout loss. Doesn't move his head enough. There seem to be legitimate fundamental flaws in his defense and the way that he fights that this may end up continuing to happen. And the fact that he came back from that last knockout loss, his 3rd in a row, and comes back in, 2-3 months, moves up in weight, seemed a little bit desperate. It seemed way too soon. And then to lose like that, you say where he goes from here. I mean, I'd certainly like to see the take some time off and really look at it approach, but it might be over already because those are some tough-ass losses, and they're not freak losses. Maybe 1 or 2 are I ran into something, but it's becoming a trend. His chin is there to be hit, and each time he's getting hit with these violent shots, he's done. This is not a good sign for a very talented guy who just, a year ago was a sneaky top 5 potential title contender at that loaded lightweight division. Tough to see this turn, but I don't see how you can keep absorbing these and just be like, hey, let's roll the dice, we'll do it again and see what happens.
Yeah, when they announced this fight, I was actually kind of worried for him because Nico Price, do I think James Vick is more technical than him? I do. But Nico Price scores from every position. If fighters want to ask, hey, who's a guy who, no matter where he is in, what kind of position he's in, he scores damage on his opponent? It's Nico Price. Hammer fist from the bottom, up kicks, in weird transition elbows. It was a tough fight for a guy who I think works better against other technical fighters, but different conversations.
How about that sound, though? The sound?
I asked him about his teeth. I was like, how are your teeth? He's like, they're okay, believe it or not. I was like, wow, because that was terrible.